Welcome back to AYFKM, the show where we take the nonsense people try to pass off as logic and expose it for what it really is. I'm your host, Victoria Sharp. Today we are breaking down a question I keep seeing over and over again. What is the difference between student loans being forgiven and farmers being bailed out again? Baby, everything. Absolutely everything. So buckle in because we are going to talk about money, policy, race, hypocrisy, and why America suddenly becomes fiscally conservative only when Black people stand to benefit. Someone online asked this question in that classic tone. You know the one. The tone that says, I am being neutral, I am just asking, but really they are trying to set up a false equivalence. When people ask this question, what they are really doing is pretending not to understand how government spending works. But the truth is simpler. They know the difference. They just do not like who is getting helped. So today I am bringing the receipts. Student loans did not just appear. They were created because the federal government pulled back public funding for higher education, forcing students to take on debt to get the same degrees their parents paid a fraction for. Here are the simple facts. Nearly 90% of student loans are federal. Black borrowers borrow more on average because Black families have less generational wealth. 20 years after starting college, the median Black borrower still owes about 95% of their loan balance. Black borrowers with the same degrees as white borrowers are 2 to 3 times more likely to default. This is not an issue of personal responsibility. It is a structural design that produces predictable disparities. Student loan forgiveness is not charity. It is a partial fix for a failed system. Now let us look at the farm side. Farm bailouts are not occasional, they are constant, built-in, systemic. The United States spends between $20 and $30 billion a year on farm subsidies. Farmers receive government-backed crop insurance. They receive price supports. They receive disaster payments. They received $28 billion during the Trump trade war. That bailout alone was larger than the auto industry rescue. And who gets most of this money? Large farms, agribusiness, and overwhelmingly white landowners. The people who benefit from farm bailouts are not the stereotypical small family farms people imagine. Farm aid is generational wealth maintenance, not emergency relief. This is where the conversation gets real. In 1920, Black farmers made up about 14% of all farmers in the United States. Today, they make up about 1.4%. Why? Because the USDA systematically discriminated against Black farmers for decades. Black farmers were denied loans, approved too late in the season for planting, given smaller loans, given slower disaster relief, and often pushed into foreclosure. This is not speculation. This was documented in the Pigford v. Glickman settlement, one of the largest civil rights settlements in history. Even today, Black farmers are less likely to receive USDA assistance and more likely to lose land. While white farmers received decades of subsidies and bailouts, Black farmers were locked out of the system entirely. So no, these two situations are not equivalent. This debate exposes something deeper. America has very strong opinions about who deserves help. Farmers are never asked why they did not plan better. No one says, why should my tax dollars pay for your drought, or your crop disease, or your trade war losses? But student borrowers, especially Black borrowers, are treated like they made a moral mistake by trying to get an education in a system designed to burden them. The double standard is intentional. Let us lay it out cleanly. Student loan forgiveness. Repairs a policy failure. Supports individuals. Narrows racial wealth gaps. Expands opportunities. Farm bailouts. Protect corporate agriculture profits. Preserve landowner wealth. Largely exclude Black farmers. Maintain an unequal status quo. Both involve government money, yes, but they serve entirely different purposes and populations. People hate admitting this, but it is undeniable. America has no problem with government assistance when the beneficiaries fit a certain demographic. White, rural, landowning, conservative voters. But when the assistance benefits Black borrowers, young people, or people without generational wealth, suddenly it becomes socialism, irresponsibility, or moral decay. It is not the spending they object to. It is the recipients. So to answer the original question, what is the difference between student loan forgiveness and farmer bailouts? Everything. One corrects a system that harmed people. The other protects a system that benefited people. The outrage is not economic. It is ideological. It is racial. It is about deservingness. And that is the part people do not want to say out loud. Here is what I want you to remember. Whenever someone pretends not to understand the difference, ask them this simple question. Would you feel the same way if Black people were the main beneficiaries? Most of the time, the answer explains everything. If this episode made you say AYFKM at least once, hit subscribe, share this with someone who needs the facts, and follow the AYFKM podcast on all platforms. Your voice matters, your clarity matters, and your refusal to let nonsense slide matters even more. Stay aware, stay sharp, stay funny and fiery, and always be ready to say, "Are you freaking kidding me?"